All right, let's jump right into today's explainer. We're going to be looking at something that probably walk all over every single day without giving it a second thought. We're diving into a fascinating analysis of the vital medical insights that are hiding right at the very bottom of our bodies. Think about your feet for a second. They aren't just a way to get from point A to point B, they are essentially your body's ultimate medical dashboard.
There's this fantastic quote from Dr. Kohei, who is a highly experienced visiting physician. He says, "The foot is the most honest part of the body and the hardest place to spot an SOS." When doctors do home visits, they see this all the time. A patient will sit there and insist they feel perfectly fine. They might even actively try to hide their symptoms from the doctor. But feet never lie. They show the absolute, unvarnished truth about your systemic health, provided, of course, you actually take the time to look down at them.
And that brings us to the real core of today's explainer. Do you know the 10 SOS signs your aging parents' feet might be sending right now? Think about it. When you were a kid, your feet were constantly being protected by your parents. They clipped your tiny little nails, slapped Band-Aids on your scraped heels, and bought you your very first pair of shoes. Well, now the roles have reversed. It's our turn to protect them. And that whole process starts with knowing exactly what to look for the second you take off their socks.
So let's break this down into stages, starting with level 1, routine discomforts. First up on the dashboard, we've got night cramps and thick nails. Night cramps, you might know them as Charlie horses, affect a whopping 40% of folks over 50. And listen, these aren't just quick, fleeting pains. The average episode lasts an agonizing 9 minutes. While people usually just blame dehydration, the actual cause is frequently totally unknown. Then you've got thick, discolored nails. More often than not, this is actually a type of ringworm. On its own, sure, it might just seem like a cosmetic annoyance, but for someone with diabetes, a thick nail can easily scratch the surrounding skin and lead to a super dangerous recurring bacterial infection called cellulitis.
So what do we do about those brutal night cramps? Well, before you even think about reaching for medications, there's an internationally recommended stretching routine you absolutely have to try. It's incredibly simple. You just stand facing a wall, keep your knees perfectly straight, and lean your body forward for about 10 to 20 seconds. Do that 3 times right before bed. It's such a basic stretch, but it is highly effective at keeping those awful nightmare cramps completely at bay.
Okay, moving up the ladder, let's look at level 2, hidden systemic diseases.
Foot swelling. It's incredibly common, right? But here's the thing. Not all swelling is created equal. To figure out what's really happening, you just press firmly on the shin for 5 seconds. If it leaves a clear indentation, like a little pit, you're looking at water retention. Lots of times, this is actually just a side effect of blood pressure medications, like calcium channel blockers. Your game plan here? Just check their medication notebook to see if the swelling magically started right around the time a new pill was introduced. But if you press the shin and it doesn't indent at all, and they are also dealing with lethargy, a sudden sensitivity to the cold, or unexplained weight gain, that points straight toward a thyroid issue, basically a hormone factory slowdown, which can be easily diagnosed with just a single blood test.
Then there's numbness, which is honestly a highly misunderstood symptom. People use the word numb to describe everything from a light tingly feeling to being completely paralyzed. But knowing the exact type of numbness instantly speeds up a doctor's diagnosis. For instance, if the numbness gradually creeps up both feet, exactly like pulling on a pair of socks, that's a classic hallmark of diabetic nerve damage. If the pain shoots from the buttocks down the legs while they're walking, but gets better when they lean forward, that is likely spinal stenosis in the lower back. But, and this is a big but, if the numbness hits suddenly and it's only on one side of the body, that is a potential stroke and you need to get emergency care immediately.
And just to put the stakes into perspective here, especially when we're talking about diabetic neuropathy, patients with diabetes who end up developing foot issues face a mortality rate that is 1.9 times higher than those who don't. Think about that. That is practically double the risk. It's a pretty staggering statistic, and it absolutely proves that foot care isn't just about comfort. It is quite literally about extending a person's lifespan.
Things get a bit more serious in level 3, the ticking clocks.
What's truly surprising about skin cancer is that, for example, in Japan, over 40% of melanomas actually show up on the extremities. We're talking specifically about the soles of the feet and the nails. Compare that to a place like the US, where it's less than 2%. Because these spots are tucked away and super hard to notice, detection is often tragically delayed. So if you see a black line on a nail that seems to be getting wider, or a brand new black spot on the sole of the foot, do not wait around. Grab your smartphone today, take a photo so you have a baseline to track any changes, and get them to a dermatologist ASAP.
Next up is a condition that honestly tricks a lot of people, peripheral arterial disease, or PAD. This happens when the arteries in the legs get clogged up. The classic symptom: you walk a specific distance, get severe calf pain, rest for 10 minutes until it magically goes away, and then you can walk again. But here's the real danger. That pain stopping during rest absolutely does not mean the body is healing. Not at all. It means the body's blaring alarm for severe body-wide atherosclerosis has just been put on snooze. If the arteries all the way down in your furthest extremities are clogging, you better believe the arteries in your heart and brain are clogging up too.
And the situation is even more precarious than it sounds. Get this, a shocking 47% of people diagnosed with PAD have zero leg symptoms, no pain whatsoever. So you really can't just sit around waiting for it to hurt. If you or your parents have any history of high blood pressure, diabetes, or smoking, you need to ask a doctor for a 5-minute ankle brachial index test, or ABI test. It's super simple. It just compares the blood pressure in the ankle to the blood pressure in the arm. If that ankle pressure drops below 0.9, that is a massive red flag for narrowed arteries.
Now, there is a golden, numerical rule for spotting hidden heart failure. A lot of times, swelling in both feet is just brushed off as poor circulation or getting older. But if that swelling is paired with shortness of breath, especially if they literally need to prop their upper body up on pillows just to sleep at night, or if there's a weight gain of 2 kilograms in just 3 days, you need to see a doctor immediately. That sudden, rapid weight gain, it isn't fat. It is fluid backing up because the heart is failing to pump effectively. 3 days, 2 kilograms. You definitely want to remember that one.
Our last ticking clock is, frankly, pretty terrifying: the painless wound. An incredible 80 to 85% of all diabetic foot amputations start with a minor, completely unnoticed wound. We're talking a shoe rub, a tiny blister, maybe a low-temperature burn from a heating pad. Because diabetic nerve damage completely destroys the ability to feel pain, the patient will look you in the eye and honestly tell you they feel totally fine. They could literally walk around with a pebble in their shoe for days and have no clue. The only way to stop this particular clock is to physically look at the soles of their feet for them.
Which brings us to the most critical stage, level 4, the ambulance triggers.
The absolute key distinction when deciding if you need to call emergency services is asymmetry. If a problem like swelling or numbness is happening gradually in both feet, it's generally a systemic issue. It's definitely serious, but it usually isn't a drop everything and call 911 situation. But if a severe symptom happens suddenly and it is in only one foot, that asymmetry is a massive flashing red flag. It means an acute medical emergency is happening in that localized area right this very second.
So there are 4 specific, sudden signs in one foot that mean you need an ambulance right now. First, a suddenly red, feverish, and swollen foot that hurts to touch. That's a rapid tissue infection spreading right in front of you. Second, a suddenly thick or swollen leg, especially after being in bed for a while. This is likely deep vein thrombosis, a blood clot that could shoot straight to the lungs. Third, a weak or paralyzed foot, where they suddenly just cannot stand up. Even if that weakness goes away in a few minutes, it could be the warning sign of a major stroke.
And finally, the 4th sudden sign is the white foot. If one foot suddenly turns pale, white, cold, and painful, an artery has completely blocked. Medical intervention to get that blood flowing again has to happen within a super strict 4 to 6 hour window. After 6 hours, irreversible tissue damage sets in. You absolutely cannot just wait until the morning to see if it feels better. The speed of the disease is out of your hands. The only speed you can actually control is how fast you react.
All right, so what do we do with all this? Here is your action plan today. It's super straightforward. Sometime this week, sit down with your aging parents in a room with some really good lighting. First, just take off their socks. Second, carefully inspect the soles of their feet and right between their toes for any hidden, painless wounds or weird black spots. And third, press your thumb into their shins for 5 seconds to check for that deep, pitting swelling. That's the whole routine. It takes literally less than 2 minutes, but it could save their life or their limbs. I want to share a thought from the source material that really struck a chord with me. Your feet have always been protected by your parents. Now, it is your turn to protect theirs. I love that, because this isn't just about running through a medical checklist. It's really about honoring the care that you received growing up by returning it right when they need it the most.
So here's my final question for you as we wrap up this explainer. In just a few seconds, when this is over, are you going to just say to yourself, well, that was interesting, I learned something today, and then move on?
Or will you actually take action and take off your parents' socks this week? The body's dashboard is right there, just waiting to be read. It's entirely up to you to check it. Thanks so much for hanging out with me on this explainer, and I will catch you on the next one.